І, друзі, можемо розпочинати.
Воно співає? Співає.
Трансляція розпочалась. Будь ласка.
Можемо.
Good afternoon, dear friends. We start this press conference. This is a broader event than traditional press conference. It looks it will take long. We are working here online in Ukraine Crisis Media Center and in the internet. On the internet, you may see our broadcast through Facebook page of Ukrainian Institute, National Commission on Standards of State Language, and on YouTube, and also you may hear English interpretation on the channel of Ukraine Crisis Media Center. This event is called The Prospects of Teaching and Learning Ukrainian as Foreign Language. And the organizers of this event are the Ukrainian Institute, the National Commission on Standards of State Language, supported by the Ministry of Education, and Ukraine Crisis Media Center. And we thank them all. About our agenda, we have Anna Paleva, head of the Department of Communication and Public Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. And we were surprised we have such a Department of Communication and Public Diplomacy at the Ministry. Online with us, we hope, Rima El-Juvaidi, General Director of the Strategic Planning and European Integration at the Ministry of Education and Science. Tatiana Filievska, Creative Director at the Ukrainian Institute. Orisa Demska, Head of National Commission on Standards of State Language. And also online with us is Irina Klitschkovska, Director of the International Institute of Education, Culture, and Communication with Diaspora. So the issue concerning promoting Ukrainian language, proactive position of Ukraine as a state and the Ukrainians as community. In promoting Ukrainian language, this is really important issue, and it has been important for a long time. We have more proactive position, and it is connected with defense position, passive position. But here we have many aspects, because some people who do not directly related to this problem, they cannot even understand them. Of course, we want that people know Ukrainian language, that people study this language, learn it, and this area of Eastern Europe, this post-totalitarian, communist countries, we believe that here we need a Ukrainian language as a point of entry, not Russian language like it was like it is seen today when foreign experts, diplomats, ambassadors of foreign nations, when they enter here, they usually they go through Russian faculty of the relevant university. And from the very start, from young years, they have this experience, and we may witness that in Europe and in other countries we may see it, but in Europe we see the situation clearly. So this is not only linguistic question, not only narrow cultural aspect. We believe that this is an issue, one of the aspects of our survival of Ukraine, and our subjectivity. So I do not know who is going to speak next, as it is stated in the on the agenda. So good afternoon. Director of International Institute of Education, Culture, and this is my first public speaking after I returned from abroad. So this is not only about support. This is one of the priorities to the language at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it is important for our foreign departments as well. For statistics, I will present some figures. So this is a representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, sorry. So you may find this information in different sources, but I would like to present information that correspond to our agency. So I worked as a simultaneous translator. So please, in order to present this information to our audience, please present information slower. Several interesting figures. Maybe they will be of interest to you. 69 faculties of 25 in 25 countries. They teach Ukrainian. These are Slavic faculties. We have only several faculties of Ukrainian studies. So there are Sunday schools, and we really hope that they will help. From one side, these are amateurs. Often they are professional teachers, but they are working as volunteers, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs support the schooling. We have 193 Sunday schools in 45 countries of the world. Not in Canada, and I was surprised by this, but in Romania, in different institutions where Ukrainian language is studied. We have kindergartens. There are some courses in 6 countries, courses of Ukrainian. And we spoke about it with Tatiana. This is the method of teaching and support of language that is not studied till the end by us, and I believe that it has many prospects for popularization of Ukrainian language abroad. Unfortunately, today we do not have any Ukrainian school that teaches not only in Ukrainian, but that they provide teaching in Ukrainian starting from the first grade to the final grade. There is distance learning school. I have my personal attitude towards the school. It is not functional abroad because the school proposes distance learning of all subjects in accordance with curricula of Ukrainian school. There is no sense for Ukrainian children, even for the children of diplomats. In this case, children, they need to learn in two schools at once, and that they do not like one of the schools, and if we take decision to the benefit of Ukrainian school, we deprive our children of social experiences. I believe that it should be reformed. And to ask the opinion of Ukrainians who live abroad on how it should function. In any case, it is a competitor to Sunday schools. This is a good instrument, but unfortunately, as it is now, it doesn't have good prospects or interest abroad. We are trying by different methods to popularize Ukrainian language. There are mixed commissions. There are 3 commissions, 2 more active, Ukrainian and Romanian commission, and the Ukrainian and Slovak commission, in the framework of which they deal with issues of teaching Ukrainian. Also, Ukrainian and Hungarian commission, and there are some problems. But we also have good prospects even in this commission. If we have time, I would like to go into more detail about this, maybe about what there are some schools, Ukrainian schools in Hungary. No schools with the full teaching of Ukrainian. Nowhere we have it. Yeah, this is the case. Sorry. So what about the role of diplomatic institutions abroad? Preservation and development of Ukrainian language, support of Ukrainian organizations that work abroad. It exists in this way. Once again, one figure I would like to mention. In 2019, due to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, 164 projects were supported. This is about financing for these schools, Sunday schools, provision of materials, starting from manuals to methodological guidance, and this was financing that was provided. This was full-scale financing. No, these schools that work abroad, they are usually provided help by the countries where they are. They provide premises and opportunities to teach, and symbolic payment from children, maybe $5 up to $10, depending on the country. But after 2014, when this problem was adopted, schools are well financed. But this is not only about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Big role is provided to Ukrainian Sunday schools. The methodology is confusing, but they should present their needs properly. But nearly all the needs of these schools were covered. I hope that now we are also heard by those who are concerned about this. So you should express your needs, state them. You should knock and then they will open to you. So it is a painful issue. And director in Frankfurt, where I worked, a principal of Sunday school, she said that the issue of certification was important, the certification of knowledge. Without this, any financing doesn't have this really, doesn't provide motivation for learning. So we get salary when we work, when we study. We should get some certificate. Those who study Ukrainian language in these Sunday schools, for them it is really important to get the certificate. That they know this language, Ukrainian language, is foreign language. This is a question to the Ministry of Education. This is the most important support. And there is an experiment carried out by Ukrainian school in Frankfurt. They signed a contract with the Lviv University, named after Franco, to have exams and certification for students, because in high school, when children are 15, 16, children lose their interest in studying this language because they do not have proper motivation to learn. So I would like to give the floor to the Ministry of Education and Science, Directorate of Strategic Planning and European Integration at the Ministry. This is the question to the General Director, Rima El-Juwaidi. Let's try to get connection. No proper sound. Do you hear me? Yeah, I hear you. Do you have a sustainable methodology in accordance to which the tests are taken in Ukrainian? Something like TOEFL or any program of any foreign language that you may study here in Ukraine. Thank you for raising this issue. This issue of introduction of certification exam is an urgent and important issue. And we believe that we will be able to solve this issue together with the National Commission, and this issue is on the agenda today, but at the moment we do not have such an exam. So your introductory word, please. Thank you. I would like to support my colleague from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I would like to say that for the ministry, of education and science, the popularization of Ukrainian language as a means of communication in the world is one of the main priorities. And during the last years, we have some results in this context. We have mechanisms of referral of teachers to work in schools where subjects are taught in Ukrainian. And we have such an example. Last year, we selected 3 teachers to refer them to Riga and Ukrainian school due to the budget funds. Unfortunately, there were some organizational challenges, and pandemic forced us to correct these plans. But now we speak with our colleagues from Latvia to resolve this issue in order that these teachers be able to go to work in the school. And also we cooperate and organize provision of manuals and additional literature to foreign schools, and embassies and educational institutions may address us. And last year, about 4,000 manuals were provided. On the site of the ministry, we have a separate division for Ukrainian schools abroad, and we are trying to enter references to electronic manuals and other materials that are ready for use. Interesting experience. This is international contest, the best Ukrainian teacher abroad. And this year, the teacher from Edmonton won this contest. And we hope that this contest provides for popularization of Ukrainian language abroad. This year, we also plan to hold the summer school for foreigners. Unfortunately, because of pandemics and quarantines, we delayed the school, but we hope that next year we will be able to implement this. Also, we provide financing for this project of this budget, and also about certification exam. This is an important issue, the issue of standardization of requirements to the level of teaching of Ukrainian as foreign language. And we have hope that due to cooperation with the Commission, we will be able to move these issues forward and to popularize the Ukrainian language. Thank you, Rima. Next speaker. Tatiana Filevska, about the tasks of the Ukrainian Institute concerning teaching and promoting of the Ukrainian language. Please, you're given the floor. Thank you very much. For us, this is really an important event today. And we will continue to promote Ukrainian language as foreign language, and we welcome the creation of the National Commission that will be a reliable partner. We were waiting for this institution in order to continue to work in this direction. So the broadening of the use of Ukrainian language in the world, this is one of 5 main goals of the Ukrainian Institute. The Ukrainian Institute, first of all, has the aim to promote Ukraine in the world by the means of cultural diplomacy. Our task in the context of the Ukrainian language is at least during 5 next years to provide understanding in the world that Ukrainian language is a separate language and one of 10 most used European languages, as it is shown by research. And we want that Ukrainian language be the language of use in professional area and in public space. And of course, this is an important means of reaching our biggest aim, to reinforce our subjectivity, because the language is the most important element of identity of Ukrainian nation, and thus the promotion of Ukrainian language in the world will provide for the establishment of subjectivity of Ukrainian nation in the world. And as Yuri mentioned, and we see it daily, that Ukrainian language still is not seen on the radars in academic community.
And quite often, everywhere, even in the academic community, Ukrainian studies are actually part of Russian studies. And Ukrainian studies in general are not very popular and actually almost are not on demand among the students. We clearly understand that promoting language, we should work at multiple levels. That is, first of all, to draw attention and emphasize the specificity of Ukrainian language, the fact that this is something independent and separate. Some years ago, we started to work on the audio guides in leading world museums. This is our joint project with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the First Lady, Madame Zelenska, joined this project, and several audio guides are recorded as of now. The next, our project was a global campaign, Kyiv, not Kiev, and the true and correct spelling of the capital of Ukraine is now registered and reflected in many international airports, publications, etc. We see our task in establishing and introduction of correct Ukrainian spelling of Ukrainian toponyms and anthroponyms. For example, Alexander Archipenko and Alexander Bogomazov are spelled in wrong way in the global museums around the world. Quite often, to do this very small and allegedly negligible correction, we have to approach to the museum and maintain long negotiations with it. But this is quite important for us. And this is important to emphasize Ukraine's role and as a subject in the world. Later today, we will describe our further work on the systemic changes. We expect it to be a long-term task. Now, having signed our memorandum with the National Committee, we are drafting our road map about teaching of Ukrainian language as one of the foreign languages around Europe or around the world, and thus to ensure better access to Ukrainian language everywhere where there is demand on it. Although our Ukrainian Institute is not the language teaching establishment, and in order to implement this project, we have to establish cooperation with language courses, language training courses, etc. Also, besides provision of this access to Ukrainian language courses, we should introduce Ukrainian documents, documentaries, archives to the global research community and allow access to these interesting resources to the scholars all around the world. Quite recently, we presented the establishment of the Dragoman Prize, a special prize for Ukrainian translators. That prize was established jointly by Ukrainian Institute and Ukrainian Pen Club, and this shows how seriously we take Ukrainian language, Ukrainian translation, and Ukrainian studies. Thank you, Tatiana. And actually, this brings us to the chair lady of the Ukrainian National Committee on the State language, on the national language standards. So my question to you, whether today in Ukraine we have any textbooks which might be compared to the language textbooks published by Goethe Institute, British Council, Alliance Française, etc. Thank you for this question. I will answer it, but a bit later. First of all, I would like to thank to my colleagues who are here today for the support of our organization, which is quite new. And we appreciate the efforts of the Ukrainian Institute, with whom we have signed our first memorandum. Now our task is to draft a roadmap and build up the way forward for our national language and to allow it develop freely among other European languages. Now, I would like to answer your question about comparisons. If I say no, it would not be true. You cannot compare the things which are uncomparable. Even if you look at the Russian language, Ukrainian language could not be compared to any of the imperial scale languages, so to say. If we compare Ukrainian language with with the languages that used to be the languages of national minorities in big empires like the Poles, the Czechs, the Slovaks, the Hungarians, etc. If we look at the English language, French, German, we cannot say that we have text books comparable to the textbooks in those languages. But if we take Polish language, we could say yes, our Jabloko textbook could be easily comparable to the Polish examples. For example, we have Ms. Danuta Mazur, who has been teaching Ukrainian language for Poles for many years, and she uses the textbooks, which are rather attractive, and the result is quite satisfactory. But the issue now is to understand where we are going, what is our way, what is our route, and what should be the roadmap. This is the huge task for us. I understand that today in the world there is a huge demand for foreign languages in general, not only for Ukrainian language. Quite recently in Gießen University, that's near Frankfurt, I had foreigners, neither Ukrainians nor even Slavonic students. They had chosen Ukraine as a subject for their master's studies, etc. But the Ukrainian studies should not be the subject of enthusiasm. When we approach to Ukrainian language and studies as a discipline, we immediately find out that there are neither international certificate in the language qualification, etc. ITA is international testing organization which develops language exams and certificates, and our purpose now, our objective is to become a member of this organization, that is to draft all the textbooks, exam content, and certificates. As of now, we know 25 members of this international organization, and I believe that we have to become the 26th member of this organization. To become a member of LTE, we have to do our homework. What we had done already. Long ago, in late 1980s, early 1990s, when the Soviet Union collapsed, with so many Canadians, Americans who came to Ukraine and they wanted to study Ukrainian language. It was, at that time, it was my first experience of teaching Ukrainian as a foreign language to foreign students. And at that time, we had to determine first what was Ukrainian language as a foreign language. almost 30 years had passed, and I'm able to quote what does it mean, Ukrainian language as a foreign language. This is the accumulation of skills and theoretical knowledge which a person of non-Ukrainian origin had acquired and is able to communicate sufficiently in Ukrainian. So this is the standard which will be applied to people both in Ukraine and abroad. Also, we had established the requirements to all the levels from A1 to C1, and we continue our work in this area. I would like to warn you that we are not alone who work in this area. We rely on a huge experience of Ukrainian language teachers who accumulated their practice and experience for almost 30 years. And the achievements of all those people have to be brought together now, summarized, lessons learned, and presented as one core. Our committee on the Ukrainian language standardization is a legal authority which has to approve the language standards, and we plan to cooperate in our work with Ukrainian Institute, with Ukrainian language teachers, and with scholars. Without all those components of this partnership, we won't be able to speak about Ukrainian language as a language, as about a soft force. We believe that Ukrainian level could become a good soft power in the this new post-COVID-19 virtual world, and we should make this soft power the top priority for our organization. Thank you so much. I dare to interrupt you because we're receiving questions from our audience on the one hand. On the other hand, we have one more speaker today. This is Ms. Kluchkovska, chairperson from the International Institute of Education, Culture and Relations with Diaspora. Thank you so much. I'm not boring. I'm happy that now we are capable to stir up this work. Not everybody know us. We are the International Institute of Education, Culture and Relations with Diaspora from the Lviv Polytechnica. Our experience during the last 25 years allowed us not only study the issue but formulate our strategy in this area, which is response to a demand in situation when the country, the government was unable to satisfy the demand for foreign language. We have studied the situation with the demand for Ukrainian language. We have held 5 congresses with diaspora, 5 conferences devoted to the role of Ukrainian language in the world, then 5 seminars of Ukrainian language as a foreign language, and the International Forum of Ukrainian Sunday and Saturday schools all around the world. We have carried out a series of sociological research about the prestige of Ukrainian language among foreign students. And the turning point in this issue was when the hearings in Ukrainian parliament were held. Those parliamentary hearings were devoted to the Ukrainian language as foreign language, and since that moment, under leadership of Ms. Grinevich, the former Minister of Education and Science, the work was started. Unfortunately, COVID-19 had hampered this work slightly, but nevertheless, we move forward. As of now, there is a sufficient global demand on Ukrainian language. There is the interest from diaspora and labor migrants who had established a network of Saturday and Sunday language schools. The next group which expresses demand, these are migrants to Ukraine who arrive, and international students. These are foreigners of non-Ukrainian language, diplomatic corps workers, etc. So studies of Ukrainian language in diaspora is satisfied by Saturday and Sunday schools. For example, in Canada, they are under the auspice of NGOs and churches. Unfortunately, those schools do not have licenses for educational activity. In Poland, we have also in Poland and in Latvia 2 language schools where we have Ukrainian, old Ukrainian population, and the system of Slavistic studies. In the times when there were no standards of Ukrainian language as foreign language, many people had doubts whether it is possible in general. We nevertheless managed to publish a series of our own textbooks of Ukrainian language as foreign language. We offer attractive textbooks from A1 level, step 1, step 2. These are comprehensive textbooks for teachers, for students. Also, we have an attractive textbook, A Trip Around Ukraine. And the next is B1, B2, and C1 level textbook a key to Ukraine. The next textbook will be devoted to Lesia Ukrainka, famous Ukrainian poetess. We had also created the first Ukrainian language portal. It requires modernization, but we do not have enough funding for that. We would be very grateful to those who might invest in that modernization. Currently, we're establishing the online course in Ukrainian language. We had held 13 summer schools in Ukrainian language open for diaspora and foreigners in Ukraine. And currently we are working on, we work on the educational platform in Ukrainian language, which will unite together Ukrainian Sunday and Saturday schools, Ukrainian studies chairs and departments all around the world, and museums devoted to Ukrainian language and studies abroad, etc. I can speak long, but I will try to say it very shortly. As about demands of schools and requirements, first of all, they need the certificates. Even if you create the certification and testing centers, the next question will be whether we will implement this into practice. Of course, we have made a lot of training materials. We have to develop qualifications of our teachers. We have to develop a single program for language schools, Saturday and Sunday schools, and foreigners studying Ukrainian language. This requires a series of discussions, of course. We have insufficient number of teachers. I have the list of our teachers, the list of our recommendations from the year 2006. And actually those recommendations have been remaining the same since the year 2006 to produce standards, to introduce certification, to become a member of LTE, etc. I have brought together a big bulk of problems, but I would like to mention one more. The problem of communication remains extremely important. We do not know how to bring together all the stakeholders, where to get information on timely basis, how to get knowledge about the best practices, about the newly appeared textbooks. Only after very good coordination, having developed good communication strategy, which would allow us to remain in close contact, we will be able to formulate strategy. This will be a comprehensive strategy comprising both big and small steps. It would require huge resources from the state, but if the state understands that Ukrainian language development should be one of the state priorities, and to this strategic goal all our tasks should be subordinated, then we will gain a real success. So developing the strategy of small and big combined steps, we'll be able to move. In the recent past, we had a huge problem with Ukrainian language schools in Russia. We also have good examples like Canada, but this only will bring the following problems. So I would like to thank to the organizers for raising this problem, for bringing it into the light and devoting it much attention. Irina, thank you so much. I had to interrupt you. We have only 6 minutes left. We have a lot of questions to answer, but I wanted to give you the floor because of your huge optimism and enthusiasm. And now we have to switch to Q&A session.
We won't be able to answer all the questions. I would like to propose to formulate, because we are living in post-COVID world, it may go online, in writing, and those questions that were sent to us to the page of Ukraine Crisis Media Center, I believe that these questions will be answered on the pages here or through Facebook pages. This is logical. But we will take several questions. I will voice them. Thank you for your speeches. Denis Dushan, I live in Poland. Often, what certificates we may get, and when people understand that you may study language, but you won't be able to you won't be provided with the certificate. Tatiana Железняк, good afternoon. Where can I get methodological guidance to teach Ukrainian abroad? Who may provide this methodological help, dear colleagues? I think that the best is to address to Irina. They have the most powerful educational institution concerning teaching Ukrainian as foreign language abroad. Irina, do you understand this, what you brought on yourself? So please, you may provide my email address and we will be able to be in contact. Ms. Paranomarenko, please tell us about the curricula of the Sunday school and how to get at least minimum financing for the school. This is, I may write the name because this name is long. So this is called Image Program in short. Good afternoon, greetings from Ukrainian Studies from Cambridge Universities. How we can get additional financing from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and to whom we should address to? It depends on the sphere you need to finance. You may address this program and Taras Shevchenko University, or I do not understand what is the country. Should Ukrainian schools be active? Because we hear about financing for such schools for the first time. This is Catalan language. This is greetings from Barcelona. Foreign diplomatic institutions on their pages once a year, they provide an announcement through Facebook. You should follow Facebook pages. In Barcelona, we have General Consulate. You should follow the announcements once a year. We always announce the launch of the program for the next year. This is not only about schools, but also this is about organizations that are officially registered. They provide their wishes about implementation of the projects they want to implement next year. As I understand, this is the last question. Ganna Szwec, associate professor, chair of Ukrainian and Russian languages as foreign languages. This is heavy colonial heritage. This is from Shevchenko University. Do you plan the support of popularization of Ukrainian language and programs abroad? These programs for foreigners and the introduction of state stipends to learn Ukrainian language as foreign language in Ukraine, in the faculties, or in foreign language courses. This is a question to the National Commission, but maybe together with the Ministry of Education, we should elaborate the strategy, and we will think through how to popularize not only Ukrainian language abroad, but also how to popularize Ukrainian language as foreign language in Ukraine. And Ukrainian state earned about 9 billion on foreign students. 9 billion hryvnias in 2018. We earned this money on foreign students. And Ukrainian language as foreign language is a part of the story. This is a task, a challenge. Together with the Ministry of Education and Science, the National Commission will work in this direction starting 2021. Thank you very much, Arisa. I would like to thank once again for organizing this event. We thank Ukrainian Institute, the National Commission on Standards of State Language, supported by the Ministry of Education and the Ukraine Crisis Media Center. We will continue our communication online. I hope that this communication will continue because this is in our common interests. Thank you.
Був такий Юрій Олексійович Жовтенко, багаторічний декан